I'm with George Safar, and we're here in a cave in Beit Sahour, and we're talking about part 2 of looking at the shepherd's fields. George, exactly where are we now?
Oh, you know what? This is one of the most impressive and great places that, the tourists or anyone would come to visit. Now, we're coming down to this cave, which gives us a clue of what the people used to have in the Old Testament, as we said in the beginning, the cave house. Now, what is the cave house? Now, look here. We're coming down the steps, but look here. Look here.
There's a hole.
It's just a hole. Niche is where the people used to hold their or place their lambs. You know, the lambs for the people to come down if they had their guests during the nighttime. I'm coming down with Paul.
So this has been a piece of
of
rock that's been chiseled
Exactly.
out,
So
and they
this
put a
is-
lamp in there.
Now, exactly. Now, if you look up, the gatekeeper of the door would be blocking the way or guarding or even safeguarding the place from the top. The door or the gatekeeper. So we're coming down here, going into this place. Just watch your head. Now, look around you here, Paul. For the lamp lights to be set up to light up the place. Of course, it's so dark during the nighttime. So this is the place where they used to hold their food and even the light lamps. Now here, what would this be? This, I believe it was set up recently in order to protect the cave because, Palestine is geologically, witness earthquakes from time to time. And this was set up intentionally in order to keep up the cave.
A piece of brickwork that's protecting the whole cave. How big is this cave?
Now, how big is the cave? You would understand how big this cave when you start explaining that the guest room was here. So what is the guest room? When I receive my guests, I would say, welcome into the house. I would have them set up right here. So this is the guest house where the people used to guest their, visitors to stay, even to eat.
So we're really underground now, aren't
Yes,
we?
we're underground. Now, over here, Paul, and everyone else who hears us, here's the living room. Now, what is the living room? The living room's term, according to the Old Testament, is the area where the people used to sleep. So when we say sleep, it means what? Animals and humans. So what's that's related with the story of the Bible? Now, look here. The manger, the lambs. The lambs that the people keep for the sacrificial offering. Now, why should I have animals inside my house? Wouldn't they, the smell that would comes out from them would make people, feel like, it's not unsafe, unhealthy. But of course, for the temple sacrifice, they've had to have them inside their homes to protect them. And, the demand of the temple, or the demands of the temple, that these sheep should be kept uncut, unblemished, as the Bible or the Torah demanded us to be presented for the temple, which reflects the perfection of Jesus Christ's body in the New Testament's time. Now, here, as we mentioned also, that Bethlehem area is lacking water. Almost 450 millimeters falls on the village of water, of rainfall that falls on Bethlehem's region. So the people needed to collect water. This is one of the most impressive pieces or parts of the cave that people have to store their water.
Is this actually a water cistern?
Yes, water system. How they used to collect it. If you look on top, Paul, you see that hole? It's blocked already. People, because they keep walking around the place in order to keep them safe, because on top of us, there's a big place for the mass liturgical, services to be upon. In order to keep people safe, they've had it shut off, but the water used to be collected, or let me say channeled from the top down into the cave, into that pit that nowadays we call wells or water wells for the summer use. Now, today, as you look around, my friend Paul, you would see that this place have this huge table and benches, of course, by the Franciscans who possess this area for the people to come and hold services or liturgical masses around the place, which is set up with the Latin Patriarch in Jerusalem. Now, is it safe?
Yes.
That's the question. Limestone, earthquakes, Earthquakes, of course, it shakes the area or the country from time to time. Now, the last time it was in 1917. It reached a point of 7.1 on the Richter scale. So we're expecting one because every, the scientist says that every 100 years one hits the area. As I said already, the last was in 1917, and today we're almost 2021, so we're expecting one, but not today.
Yeah.
Now, here, you might be asking me, Paul, if this is the guest room, if this was the guest room actually, kataloma. Kataloma is a Greek word, stands for the place where the people used to receive their guests. And this was the living room where the people used to sleep. Where would be the kitchen? That part of the house.
Yeah.
Now, what clues gives us that was the kitchen site? If you look on top, you see that huge hole?
Yeah.
For the smoke to move out.
So this was the cooking area.
So this is the cooking area.
Yeah.
For the ladies to have a light, during the daytime, and of course the lamp would be lit for the nighttime. But most important, for the smoke to move out if they cook around this area. Now, I would add one thing. If the lamps would be kept on the backside of the house, where would be the huge animals kept? In the kitchen area. Like my donkey or my cow would be kept here. But the question is, they're so big to have the cow and the donkey run down the stairs to be kept in here. Their size is so big to have them in here. So does it negatively gives us the impression that, those images of the story or the nativity stories about having Jesus with a cow or the donkey at the time of his birth, I would say there was nothing of that to do. There was nothing of those kinds of animals were be kept at that time. I would say there were only sheep around the place because it's always, as I said, related with the message that the Word of God came to the world to give. The message was the Lamb of God came to the world in the same way he would be sacrificed on behalf of humanity. Now, what am I saying? Sheep, the little sheep or the little lambs, temple sacrifice, but when they have their legs broken, that would be kept inside their homes, within those mangers, for them to be healed, and then they would be taken out for the fields or their home to stay with their mothers, as the customs used to. But Jesus, when he was born, he was placed in a manger, the same way the lambs were kept in the old times, for the shepherds to understand that this is the message that I want to give you. Luke is so wise. Luke, the gospel, is so wise when he told the story. He wanted them to go to see. God wanted them to go to see the child, the same way they've seen the lambs that they used to have them placed in the mangers. So God is telling them in a different way that as much as you care for the lambs, that you will be offering them to the temple. Here's the word of God is coming to you in the same way, but he will be offered on behalf of humanity 33 years after what you're going to witness. So since that moment, the shepherds, the most humble, became the first witnesses of the most wonderful message God had prepared and planned from the beginning of humanity or the beginning of creation, and were chosen by God to be the first to announce the coming of the Word of God to humanity. And the question would be, I always ask that question, Paul, why would be the shepherds and no one else? Why wouldn't be the most religious, or the most reachful man? Because when you talk to a rich man, or when you talk to anyone else, except the shepherds, you would listen to them. But listening to the shepherds is the most amazing thing. Because after they went to Bethlehem and have seen what they have seen, they started spreading the word. And everyone else believed them. And that was the message of God to humanity, that no matter what your status is, I'm choosing you to be the first to proclaim my good news to all humanity. So the shepherds, in my opinion, this is my opinion, nevertheless, that they were the most loyal among the Jewish nation at that time. became the first pastors in Christendom.